In the third episode, the Fox family and Chewie start making their way to the Mexican border. Chewie, though, is not happy. He blames Allie for everything that happened to his brother and wants to go home, but Allie reminds him that he can't go back to the States. That's not an option anymore. He has no choice but to go to Mexico, where people are looking for him. So Chewie is literally stuck between a rock and a hard place, and figuratively stuck between a rock and a hard place. Eventually, cooler heads prevail, but they do have an issue: water. The bullets put holes in a lot of their jugs, and they're running low on it, which means the time is of the essence. They need to hurry up, or else they're going to die. So with his map, Allie decides the family's going to take a shortcut through a bombing range. That's basically the last straw for Dina. She starts to walk away, but Allie says, whoa, they only use about 6% of that. 6% of like 1,000 acres. The odds of them actually hitting us are minuscule. It's going to be as safe as crossing a road. But Chewie says that's not necessarily true. Even without the Air Force dropping bombs on us, it's just really tough to cross. People die all the time. But the fact that it's tough to cross means that it's not patrolled, which is music to Allie's ears. He then asks Chewie, you have a cell phone, right? You must know somebody that can help us in the desert. And Chewie reminds him, we're in the desert. There's no signal for hundreds of miles. But Allie reassures him, if there's someone you can call, I can get you a signal. There's an emergency beacon about 4 or 5 miles from the border. I can rewire it and get you a signal. He then shows Chewie a bag of cash and asks him again, is there someone who you can call? And Chewie says, yeah, there is. So the family pack up their stuff and start moving. But shortly after crossing the bombing range, Allie notices that Margot hasn't been drinking a lot of water. So he goes up to her and says, you're no good to the kids dying in the desert. But her main focus is Chewie. She doesn't really trust him. Allie says he's a good guy, but Margot says, yeah, but you put a good guy in a bad situation, he's going to become a bad guy real quick. And while those two were talking, Chewie was having a conversation with Dina in Spanish, trying to find out why Allie and his family are on the run. But Dina gives him all the information she has, which is, well, he's not dangerous, but I'm not really sure why the government's chasing us. A short time later, they come across a makeshift community in the desert, one that's used by the Air Force for training and bombing. And at first, it kind of weirds everybody out because it's such an odd thing to see in the middle of nowhere. But then all of a sudden, they hear a helicopter. So they sprint for this makeshift village to try to get undercover, thinking that it's either the Border Patrol or worse, the Air Force actually using that 6% for training. They end up making their way to a hollowed out building and just hunkering down. And in that building, there's actually a dead body of a guy who just didn't make it. It freaks the family out, but they also have a helicopter above them that they're not sure if it's looking for them or trying to attack the area. Luckily, though, helicopter just flies by. When it's all safe, Allie asks Chewie to take the kids outside, and then he starts going through the dead body looking for anything he can use. While it's not kosher, we are talking life and death. And he does end up finding the guy's canteen full of water, which he ends up taking. The family then packs up the stuff and continues to move closer to the border. That night, while they're walking, Dina tries to get from Margot what exactly Allie did to put them in this situation. She says, you don't just run to Mexico because you've got a parking ticket. What did he do? Did people get hurt? And while Margot doesn't give up what Allie did, she does reassure Dina, your dad never hurt anyone. The family then hunkers down for the night, and when they wake up the next morning, Allie starts heating up some local plants that they can eat. Margot is watching Allie do this when she's approached by Chewie. And he starts off the conversation by letting Margot know that he actually has a kid too. He has a daughter who's in Mexico. He hasn't seen her in a long time, and he's hoping to reconnect with her because he's forced to go back. He hopes that maybe he can smooth things out with the people that he owes money to, because he owes a lot of it. Margot figures that he owes money to the cartel, but he says, the cartel isn't exactly what you think it is. He then turns the conversation towards Allie, asking, all right, what did he do to put you guys in this situation? This is becoming a popular talking point as they make their way to the border. But just like before, she doesn't give him any information. He says to her, look, I'm going to do what you guys want. I'm going to make that phone call, connect you with my people, but I'm going to tell you right now, don't do it. Let him do it if that's what he wants to do. But my suggestion to you is you take your kids and you go back home, because he's going to be the end of you guys. But that's just not an option for Margot. The family keeps moving, but they stop at the foot of a mountain because the security beacon that they're going to hack into is on the other side of it. Chewie wants to go around the mountain, but Allie says that's stupid. We should just go through it. Doing so would cut the time in half, but Chewie is adamant that they should not go through it. Chewie starts saying that it's too dangerous to do so, but when Allie asks how, Chewie doesn't really have an answer. So Allie makes the executive decision that they're going to go through the mountain pass, which Chewie clearly doesn't want to do. And when they actually make their way through, you see why. Because in that mountain pass is a bunch of bodies who were slaughtered. They've been sitting there for a while. There are shrines and memorials put up to these people, but it's a pretty horrifying sight, especially for a family. Chewie tells the group that nobody really knows exactly what happened to these people, but they've been there a long time, since Chewie was a kid. He figures that a coyote got lazy. He took their money, he shot them, and he left them there. Dina asks, why does nobody bury them? And Chewie says it's bad luck because you can't disturb them. But Allie's not following that rule. He wants to collect whatever is useful on them. He's hoping that he can find some water. But while the Fox family starts going through the bodies, Chewie decides to relight one of the candles in the makeshift memorial. Now, no one really finds anything of value except Charlie. He ends up finding a handgun, which he doesn't tell anybody about, putting it in his backpack. After a little bit, Chewie tells the group, we really should keep moving. And they start making their way out when all of a sudden they hear voices. And it's another coyote bringing a group from Mexico over the border to the United States. And Chewie tells everybody, look, we gotta hide. He does not want to be seen by these coyotes. They run behind rocks, and they're trying to be as silent as possible as the coyotes, and a big group make their way through the pass. When one of the coyotes stops at the makeshift memorial to put a prayer card and notices that the candle is lit, he starts to freak out a little bit, figuring that someone's got to be near, and he pulls out a gun and starts looking around. The group continues to try to remain quiet, but all of a sudden, Charlie hears something from behind him, and when he looks, it's a rattlesnake who is staring right at him. Chewie ends up grabbing it and throwing it to the side, but the rattlesnake bites him, and he's in a lot of pain, but he is able to be quiet. The one coyote tells the other, oh, stop, it's a rattlesnake. They end up shooting it a few times, laughing about it, and then saying, all right, let's keep moving. And once the coast is clear, the group starts tending to Chewie, who's in a bad way. Margot says, we got to keep moving before you get too sick. The bite's not going to kill you, but the dehydration will. So they need to get to the tower, hack it, and have Chewie make that phone call before he passes out. They even give Chewie the last of their water. But right before they do get to the tower, Chewie collapses. He's not totally passed out, though, and he's close enough where they can actually make it to the tower. So Allie says, Chewie, just a few more steps, we'll make it, and they drag Chewie to the tower. Allie ends up breaking it open, rewiring it, and taking Chewie's cell phone and getting a connection on it. And now it's up to Chewie. He gets up to make the phone call and tells the Fox family that the person he's calling is like kind of a way station for migrants. It's kind of like a charity, but he does promise them these are good people. And when he makes contact, they're definitely surprised to hear from Chewie. He tells the person on the other end, I need your help. I have a family here and they need to disappear. So the guy tells them of a location where they'll pick them up. It's this ruins of an old church. And as soon as the guy hangs up the phone, Chewie collapses. They end up tearing the tower up and making a makeshift stretcher for Chewie, and then start dragging him to the ruins. And when they get within sight, the people that Chewie ended up calling drive up to them and pick them up. Margot doesn't want to leave Chewie's side, but one of the guys reassures her he'll be okay. He pulls out a medical kit. The Foxes get in the cars, and they head into Mexico. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.